my full-time job became managing Puff, and I was doing other things. So even when I let Puff go, for the whole time he was let go, he was always on payroll. I never stopped paying him until he found his next spot. His artists were always still getting per diem, because I didn't do it to hurt him, but I knew it was time for him to grow. And the only way he could grow was if he was going to have the same kind of corporate compensations that I was subjected to. And then he would understand what he could and could not do.
You got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy, from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, T.G. Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it.
Was Diddy really born this way? Or was he built by an industry that rewards silence, power, and results at any cost? Because according to someone who stood right next to him every single day, everything people are shocked by now was already visible years ago, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to surface. Just minutes after new headlines reignited the conversation, one name kept coming up again and again: Gene Deal. Not a blogger, not a commentator, but a former insider who says he watched Bad Boy rise from the inside out. According to him, the public only ever saw the polished version. The smiles, the success, the celebration. What they didn't see, he claims, was how power was learned, modeled, and quietly rewarded behind closed doors. And here's the part people miss. Gene Deal wasn't watching from afar. He says he was there for the flights, the meetings, the private rooms, and the moments when masks slipped. Deal describes himself as more than security. According to his own accounts, he traveled with Diddy, protected him, and observed how he moved through spaces where executives, money, and influence collided. He claims the version of Diddy people knew on camera wasn't the full picture. And that's where things start to get uncomfortable, because if behavior is learned, then the next question becomes unavoidable. Who taught it?
Gene Deal, let's get right into it. Diddy, he got indicted. You called it, man. A few weeks ago, you was on the platform and you said that he was going to get arrested in September.
Yeah, man. Anybody who in law enforcement or people know the law, when Homeland Security ran up into his house, people will tell you, or people knew that it was just a matter of time that they was going to indict him and bring him in to see the judge, bro. It was just a matter of time. I just figured out with the grand jury and their different sessions and stuff like that. And then what one of the witnesses told me, I just figured it out that it was going to be around September that they were going to bring him in, bro. People might not understand. It's difficult when you see a brother that has so much promise become an icon as far as in the music business and stuff that he did, to turn around and just tear his whole life down. But it's all because of his mentors and the people that trained him and taught him the music business. You know, it's all about the people who trained and taught him the music business, because Puff wasn't, he wasn't born a monster. You know what I'm saying? He was made into a monster, brother. Do you understand what I'm saying? He was made into a monster from the stuff that happened to him, the things that he had to do. You understand? The things that he had to do to become who he is. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like this, brother. You never like something so much that you can't do without, and you never be willing to do anything to get where you want to be at. You got to have principles. You got to have morals. You got to keep with that stuff. And in that music business, a lot of that stuff get thrown out the window. You understand? And that's what happened to him. He started doing the things to other people that was done to him. To keep it frank, he was doing the things to other people that was done to him. And it is what it is. You got to know better. And if you know better, you will do better. when he was in New York City, he was like that gecko from the Geico commercial. Then he turned and started going, when he lived in Cali and Miami, he turned into Godzilla. I would see him talk about how he using drugs. He was never like that. Smoking cigarettes, smoking weed and everything like that. He turned into something that you could consider a monster, bro. Then he started doing things to people, you understand, that he learned. That's a learned behavior, bro. Now, I'm not saying that he may have been doing a couple of things here and there with women, stuff like that in New York, but the things that they're talking about that he was doing, bringing in prostitutes to have sex with his girl and all that stuff like that, that was some crazy stuff to me, man. So I'm just looking at this whole thing, man, and you had asked me, and we don't have these conversations like most people do. We're going to go back and you're going to tell me what, we're going to talk about this. You said, I'm going to ask you how you feel, bro.
Gene Deal's most repeated claim isn't about one bad decision. It's about transformation. He says early on, Diddy was quiet, observant, almost invisible in rooms full of power. According to Deal, he watched everything, studied everyone, absorbed how authority really worked. Deal famously compared it to a gecko, small, patient, blending into the environment. But then, he says, the environment changed. New cities, new access, new power. And that gecko, according to Deal, didn't stay small. It turned into something much bigger. And once that shift happened, nothing worked the same way again. Here's where it gets messy. Deal alleges that ambition alone didn't cause the change. He claims the culture rewarded it. Executive spaces, according to him, normalized behavior most people would question, as long as results kept coming. Silence mattered more than ethics. Loyalty mattered more than accountability. And if someone crossed a line but delivered success, the system allegedly looked the other way. This isn't framed as a single villain story. It's described as a machine that keeps running because too many people benefit from it.
Like, I had an artist in the building, right? Because Puff, as an executive, he really is a very artistic guy. He can make videos, he can style. So I started to branch out in the movies and the television. So then Puff wouldn't really listen to anybody but me. So my full-time job became managing Puff. And I was doing other things. So even when I let Puff go, for the whole time he was let go, he was always on payroll. I never stopped paying him until he found his next spot. His artists were always still getting per diem. Because I didn't do it to hurt him, but I knew it was time for him to grow. And the only way he could grow was if he was going to have the same kind of corporate conversations that I was subjected to. And then he would understand what he could and could not do. And the final straw for me was when MCA wanted me to not put out the Biggie Smalls album because they didn't like the subject matter, and they wanted me to tell him he's got to change his tone. And it wasn't up to me, I felt, to tell a generation what they could and could not do artistically. So I knew it wasn't going to work because he was coming from a new space and a new era. The Dr. Dre Chronic album that came out, and that was a major influence over music. So whereas I had Heavy D, who was more like a happy, female-loving, uplifting kind of celebratory artist, Puff's Heavy D was Biggie Smalls. And Biggie Smalls was more like in the streets and telling street stories, and he told them well.
And that was a transition in hip-hop.
And big in New York. For New York. And Biggie Smalls ended up becoming my favorite rapper of all time. But I didn't want to sit there and be the one confining Puff because the corporation was telling me to do that. I'm not built that way. So I told Puff he needs to go and create his own opportunity. You red hot. I'm really letting you go so you could get rich.
And he did, and you guys together, you did as...
According to Deal, once real power arrived, things escalated. He claims private gatherings became more extreme over time, not overnight, but gradually. Loyalty, he alleges, was tested. Silence was rewarded. And narratives were managed carefully. Deal is clear about one thing though. These are claims, not proven facts. He doesn't excuse behavior. He argues context matters, not to justify actions, but to explain how unchecked power multiplies itself. And that's the part people struggle with, because it forces a harder conversation than blaming one man.
When I seen Puff on camera smoking a cigarette, and I said, that's not the Puff that I know. To smoke a cigarette? I believe that opioids addiction changed his whole life and changed who he was. He's quietly an addict. So is he responsible for some of the shit that he did? Because of his addiction, yes, he is. But it has a lot to do with drugs, bruh. And that brother might need some help.
Well, do you see any legal problems coming from any of this?
It's based on what they find in discovery. We know that we have people that's putting a civil suit against them. We know there's people that's putting a civil suit against them. But in that civil suit, if they find something criminal, then there might be a prosecutor who say, yo, listen to me. I want to bring this in.
According to Deal, once real power arrived, things escalated. He claims private gatherings became more extreme over time, not overnight, but gradually. Loyalty, he alleges, was tested. Silence was rewarded. And narratives were managed carefully. Deal is clear about one thing though. These are claims, not proven facts. He doesn't excuse behavior. He argues context matters, not to justify actions, but to explain how unchecked power multiplies itself. And that's the part people struggle with, because it forces a harder conversation than blaming one man.
50, how'd you get it, and what does that scene show?
Well, I mean, you're a journalist, Avi. Avi, you would not disclose your sources.
We usually don't.
Yeah, but I got it. Yeah.
What he said.
And what do you think it conveys? Because we see someone trying to pull the strings and talking about, he would say affecting, others would say manipulating the public views of the allegations.
I think that, one big theme of the series is to go behind the scenes to really understand how brilliant you could say Sean Combs is at marketing, at owning his narrative, controlling the narrative at all times. And so why would that stop, when his life is on the line? So I think that, on its face, that's what it is. But as you get deeper in the film, you start to realize, perhaps how some of these tactics, how they really came to present themselves, during the trial.
You show that, his abilities, his early rise. Alexandra, you also give time to victims of the alleged abuse. Some of the cases are in different procedural postures. And you show victims who were women and men. Why is that important?
Because, victims of sexual assault, sexual violence, that should, gender should not be a part of that conversation. When you are a victim, you are a victim. And I think that, this series was a platform in a way for these alleged victims to come forward, give their truth, put context to their situations when so much of it was ripped out, and we just the world was going for the salacious headlines, and they really had the time to tell their story.
Yeah, and the film takes us way behind the PR or propaganda machine. You see Diddy the day he's finding out about new suits against him while he's in New York preparing for a possible criminal arrest. This is another moment from the video that 50 said he won't tell us where he got it.
Where multiple people died during a crowd surge. He alleges this should have been a turning point. A warning. According to him, decisions made around safety, access, and control reflected patterns that would repeat later. He doesn't focus on graphic details. He focuses on what he claims was ignored afterward. In his view, the lesson wasn't learned. It was buried. And that's where the story quietly shifted from tragedy to footnote.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
Deal has been openly critical of later documentaries, claiming they played it safe. According to him, certain projects avoided uncomfortable questions, skipped names, and focused on surface-level storytelling. He says he walked away from participating in some of them, not over money alone, but because he believed history was being edited. And here's the uncomfortable truth he keeps pointing at. When stories get cleaned up, systems stay protected.
Kid told me his life story, bro. I tried to stop these people from going to the party. It was his decision. You understand? That cost that kid his life. Even when I tried to ride on the side of the fucking truck, he gonna tell me, yo, Gene, if you don't get in this car, you ain't gonna never work again for Bad Boy. I should have said, F Bad Boy, and did what I knew to do. You understand? That kid lost his life. It wasn't my watch, but I was there. He had his own bodyguards, but I still was there. I knew something was going to go down. I was willing to ride on the side of the damn car so I could save this kid's life. Now, my man go to him, ASAP Ferg father. He goes to him. Yo, Puff, blase, whoop-de-whoop. I gotta have this, or these guys it's gonna be a problem in the street. Here go this. You can use this until I can give it back to him. This nigga said, what? I can't do that. Understandable, whatever the situation was. My man died the day after my birthday. Turns around, tell Wolf, I'm gonna give you your $300,000. Wolf is the one who brought me back into Bad Boy, or brought me back into Bad Boy, because I was there before Wolf himself. Wolf's mother let me hear something that the what they call it, the drug enforcement, the prosecutor from Atlanta, that Puff told Meech, go ahead and do what you got to do. When him and Wolf and them was beefing outside, I heard Wolf say out of his mouth, "I'ma show you, them niggas ain't that." I knew he was building up the atmosphere between Meech and Wolf to go at it. Do you hear me? Wolf get killed by some kids from BMF. Actually, the dude that he put down with BMF. This nigga brags about cussing Wolf's mother out. And I'm going to call his name out. He bragged to his cousin, Ak. So you niggas in New York, if y'all don't believe what I'm saying, ask Ak. If Wolf was alive, the way he loved his mother, we wouldn't be talking about Diddy today. I say this dude, even after all that, I still say this nigga.
That's why Cat Williams' past comments keep resurfacing in this conversation. Not as accusations, but as warnings. According to Deal and others, Williams didn't name crimes. He made implications about proximity, silence, and fear. The idea that advancement sometimes came not from talent alone, but from staying quiet and staying close. Deal frames this as leverage, not friendship. And once consequences started hitting, public perception shifted fast. After the conviction, the tone changed. Conversations that once felt untouchable suddenly became public. Deal revisits artists he says were used, discarded, or forgotten. He frames these not as isolated cases, but as a pattern repeated across years. In his view, unchecked power doesn't just damage one person. It creates fallout. Careers rise. Others quietly disappear. And accountability arrives late, if at all. As award shows, interviews, and old footage get re-examined, people are noticing what they ignored before. Who laughed? Who stayed silent? Who benefited from proximity? Deal doesn't accuse specific figures of crimes. He repeatedly emphasizes that many allegations remain unproven. But he argues perception matters. And silence, once invisible, is now being treated like a decision. According to Deal, the real legacy isn't just about what happened, but about what was allowed to happen. Who spoke up? Who didn't? And why? With Diddy now serving time, Deal says the conversation shouldn't stop at punishment. It should move toward reflection. Because if one person falls but the system stays untouched, nothing actually changes. So here's the question that refuses to go away. Was this really about one man? Or was it about an entire culture that trained, rewarded, and protected behavior as long as the results kept coming? And if silence was the currency that built empire?
He got off. See, I didn't talk about Tyler Perry. I didn't really talk about Puffy. It's some stuff I'd be like, okay, let me see what happened with this. Because I don't want to be one of them people who say this about somebody and then have to eat crow later on.
Right.
Let me give you some examples. There was something going on when we had that discussion about Chris Webber.
Right.
I didn't say much about Chris Webber. I talked about fucking people's wives.
Right.
Then people were saying Corey said something about Chris Webber.
Right.
And I didn't really say nothing about Chris Webber like that except giving praise because I only know Chris Webber from hooping. And I used to hoop, so I look up to them guys. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Chris Webber never said I didn't that nigga away.
Right.
There's things in the news about Tyler Perry.
I'm not gay no more.
I want to tell Tyler Perry this. I would love to come work for you, Tyler Perry.
Who's next? Y'all don't see the lineup? Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next. Jay-Z is setting Diddy up. Why is everyone having such a hard time? He ain't doing shit different. He lined up D. Haven, stole his life and identity. He lined up Big L, stole his life and identity. He lined up Dame Dash, stole his life, identity, and took his love. Lined up R. Kelly. He wants to be the one.
Yeah, shout out D. Haven. He actually hit us up, wanted to tell this story.
You need to talk to D. Haven.
We need to talk to him.
I told you that last year when I put you on the phone with him.
You did.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him. And so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling. Let's just say allegedly that happened. Now I want you to think about 106th and Park with Mary J. Blige. Free, who is a victim of Sean Carter.
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige, who is a victim of Sean Combs, are sitting there talking about the death of Aaliyah amongst each other. Think about that. You got a Diddy victim, you got a Jay-Z victim, and you got a superstar gone. They know what happened. And yet, they had to sit there and have that conversation like they didn't know who did it.
I'm shutting down the idea of after parties. No after parties tonight, okay? None. Take your asses home after this. That's why I did it on a Monday. People got to go to work tomorrow. No after parties. That's get slippery at them. after parties. Okay? We're learning a lot about people, ain't we? We're learning a lot.
Honestly, it looked to me like you could hear some laughter. There was laughter.
Yeah.
It was funny, but it's like people were on camera and didn't want to seem like they were laughing.
BET Awards positions themselves as the culture's biggest night, and once upon a time, Diddy was a big part of this culture. You know,
Right.
his after parties, you know, were a part of the BET experience. So, you know, life comes at you fast, but, you know, Kevin had to address the elephant in the room.
By the way, we should say the Diddy after parties that happen after award shows, that's not what the trial is about. Those weren't freak-offs. The trial is something separate, but still, nobody wanted to be seen as laughing at him. There were some icon awards handed out.
Understand, for the atmosphere that he put those kids in. You got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't able to tell that story because they didn't have no intel on that story or what went down, or they didn't do their investigations right, which he also led up to the reason why Wolf ain't here today. You understand? They didn't tell that story. They didn't tell a story about Jessica Rosenbaum, who was at the City College situation. You understand? When it was Puff, Heavy D, and Jessica. You know what I'm saying? Jessica was the reason why those kids lost their life, because she locked the door on those kids running down the steps. You understand? You could see her name in a news article, but they didn't mention nothing about her taking place, but they try to put Heavy D, God bless the dead, out there and they put Puff out there. You know what I'm saying? She should have been the main one because she is the one who locked the door on the kids. You understand? She is the one who locked the door on the kids, and all those kids lost their life. Had she not locked those doors, not one kid would have lost their life. Not one kid would have lost their life. And that's what happened. I don't think it's only celebrities going to be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there. He also had a couple of preachers in there.
You personally, you think they got tapes?
Well, my personal opinion that if Lil Rob could be trusted and his statements are true, they got him. They got tapes of stuff.